Congratulations on the charity gala, Delilah. I had no idea you were such a philanthropist. Connor's voice boomed through my office speakerphone, and I nearly choked on my coffee. I stared at the phone like it had just told me I'd won the lottery, using numbers I'd never picked. I'm sorry, what gala? The Children's Hospital fundraiser next month. My wife saw the promotional materials. Your photos all over social media. Very impressive stuff. We'd love to buy a table. My blood turned to ice water. Connor, can you send me those materials? I think there might be some confusion. Of course. I'll have my assistant forward everything. Again, congratulations on organising such a worthy cause. The line went dead, and I sat there staring at my computer screen, waiting for the email that would either clear up a misunderstanding or confirm my worst suspicions about my family. My name is Delilah, and I've spent the last 15 years building a reputation as a reliable business executive. I've worked 70-hour weeks, missed vacations, and sacrificed relationships to get where I am. My integrity is everything to me. It's literally my brand. The email arrived 3 minutes later. I clicked the attachment and watched my professional headshot load on a glossy promotional flyer. There I was, smiling in my navy blazer, positioned next to text that read, "Join Delilah Hopkins in supporting children's healthcare, a night of giving back." I scrolled through the social media screenshots Connor's assistant had included. Facebook posts, Instagram stories, Twitter threads, all featuring my photo and name, all promoting a charity gala I'd never heard of. The comments were what made my stomach drop. So proud of Delilah for finally giving back to the community. About time she used her success for something meaningful. I heard she's been planning this for months, but wanted to keep it quiet. I grabbed my phone and called the number listed on the promotional materials. A cheerful voice answered on the second ring. "Hello, you've reached the Children's Hope Foundation. This is Sydney speaking." Sydney, my younger sister. "Sydney, what the hell is this charity gala?" "Oh, hi, Delilah." Her voice immediately shifted from perky to cold. "I wondered when you'd call." "You wondered? You're using my name and photo to promote some event I know nothing about." "Relax. We're doing you a favour, actually. People were starting to talk about how selfish you are, never giving back despite all your success. This way, you look good even if you're too busy to actually participate." I felt my jaw clench. Too busy to participate in my own charity event? Well, you haven't exactly been available for family activities lately. Mum thought this would be a nice way to include you without actually having to deal with your schedule. Put Mum on the phone. She's not here. She's at the venue doing the final walkthrough. This is going to be amazing, Delilah. We've already raised over $50,000, and we haven't even had the event yet. $50,000 in my name for a charity I'd never heard of. Sydney, you need to shut this down immediately. You can't use my name without permission. Actually, we can. It's for charity. Besides, everyone's already bought their tickets. We can't disappoint the children now, can we? The line went dead. I sat there for a moment, processing what had just happened. Then I opened my laptop and started digging. The Children's Hope Foundation had a basic website with stock photos and vague mission statements. The address listed was a P.O. box. The board of directors consisted of 3 people: Maureen Sims, Sydney Sims, and someone named Patricia Williams, who I quickly discovered was Mum's neighbour. I kept digging. The bank account information for donations led to a personal account under Mum's name. The venue was booked under Sydney's credit card. The catering, flowers, and entertainment all paid for with money from the donation account. They weren't just using my name, they were stealing from people who thought they were helping sick children. I found the European vacation booking confirmation in Sydney's email. She'd left her social media connected to the foundation's website, and her privacy settings were non-existent. 2 weeks in Italy and France, first-class flights, 5-star hotels. Departure date, 3 days after the gala. My phone buzzed with a text from my Aunt Natalie. Heard about your charity work. Finally doing something worthwhile with all that money you make. Your mother is so proud. I stared at the message, remembering every family gathering where Mum had introduced me as my daughter who's too busy for family. Every holiday where Sydney got praised for her creativity, while my actual achievements were dismissed as just business. They'd been setting this up for months, using my success to fund their vacation, while painting me as the selfish sister who couldn't even be bothered to show up to her own charity event. I opened a new browser window and started researching private investigators. If they wanted to play games with my reputation, I'd make sure they learned exactly what I was capable of. I called my brother Griffin that night. He answered on the 4th ring, sounding tired. "Hey, Delilah, what's up? Did you know about the charity gala?" Silence. Then a long sigh. "Yeah, I know about it." "And you didn't think to warn me?" I tried to talk them out of it. Mum said you'd probably be grateful for the publicity. I laughed, but there was no humour in it. Grateful? Griffin, they're committing fraud using my name. Look, I know it's messed up, but what? Remember when I paid for Mum's car repairs last year? Or when I covered Sydney's rent for 6 months? Or when I funded your wedding because Dad's life insurance wasn't enough? That's different. How is it different? You offered to help with those things. I offered because every time I didn't, I became the villain. Remember Sydney's graduation party? Griffin went quiet. He remembered. I'd been working on a major acquisition that week, pulling 18-hour days. When I couldn't make it to Sydney's college graduation party, Mum had stood up in front of 40 relatives and friends to give a toast. "I want to thank everyone who made time to celebrate Sydney tonight," she'd said, her voice carrying across the restaurant. "It means so much to have family who prioritise what's important. Of course, some people are too busy with their careers to celebrate family milestones, but that's their choice." Everyone had looked at the empty chair where I should have been sitting. Aunt Natalie had shaken her head sadly. Cousin Mark had muttered something about priorities. Sydney had played the hurt sister perfectly, saying she understood I was too important to come. I'd arrived an hour later, straight from the office, still in my work clothes. The damage was already done. She made me look like a monster, Griffin, in front of everyone. I know, but you showing up late didn't help. I showed up as soon as I could. I brought her a graduation gift worth more than most people's cars. Money isn't everything, Delilah. There it was, the same line they'd been feeding me for years. Money isn't everything, except when they needed mine. You're right. Money isn't everything. But apparently, my reputation is worth something since they're selling it to fund their vacation. Their what? I told him about the Italy booking. Griffin was quiet for a long time. Jesus, Delilah, I didn't know about that part. What did you think they were doing with the money? Mum said they were keeping it in a special account until after the event, then donating everything to the hospital. Which hospital, Griffin? The Children's Hope Foundation doesn't exist. It's a P.O. box and a website. Shit. Yeah, shit. My phone beeped with another call. Mum. Griffin, I have to go. Mum's calling. Delilah, wait. Don't do anything crazy, okay? They're still family. I hung up and answered Mum's call. Delilah, honey, I heard you finally found out about our little surprise. Your little surprise? The gala. We wanted it to be a wonderful revelation for you. You work so hard, we thought you deserved to see how much the community appreciates you. By stealing from them? Stealing? Delilah, we're raising money for children. How is that stealing? Where's the money going, Mum? To help children, of course. Which children? What hospital? What organisation? Well, we're still finalising those details. The important thing is that people are giving from their hearts. The important thing is that you're committing fraud. Don't be so dramatic. You always were too serious about everything. Remember when you were 8 and you reported your own sister for taking cookies from the jar? You haven't changed a bit. I remembered that day. Sydney had taken the last of the cookies I'd been saving for after dinner. When I told Mum, she'd made me apologise to Sydney for being a tattletale and sent me to my room without dessert. This isn't about cookies, Mum. Isn't it? You're still the same little girl who can't stand to see anyone else get attention. Sydney and I are doing something beautiful for the community, and all you can do is find fault. You're using my name without permission to collect money under false pretenses. That's called fraud. It's called family, Delilah. Something you might understand if you ever made time for us. The line went dead. I sat there holding my phone, remembering every family dinner where my achievements were dismissed, every holiday where I was made to feel like an outsider, every time I'd written a check to keep the peace only to be told I was buying my way out of real relationships. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow at noon. Come alone. But Griffin was using a burner phone. That meant he knew something he couldn't say over his regular line. Something that would change everything. Griffin was already sitting on a bench when I arrived at Riverside Park. He looked like he hadn't slept, his usually neat hair dishevelled and his shirt wrinkled. "Thanks for coming," he said, not looking at me. "What's this about, Griffin? Why the burner phone?" He pulled out a manila envelope and handed it to me. "I've been doing some digging since our call last night. You're not going to like what I found." I opened the envelope. Bank statements, credit card bills, receipts, all with Mum's and Sydney's names on them. The numbers made my stomach turn. "They've been planning this for 8 months, Griffin said. "Look at the dates." I flipped through the papers. Hotel reservations in Italy from last December, catering deposits from January, venue bookings from February. "They started using your name in their planning documents before they even created the fake charity," Griffin continued. "This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment thing. They've been setting you up. Where did you get these?" Sydney left her laptop open at Mum's house last week. I took photos of everything I could find. I kept reading. Email chains between Mum and Sydney discussing the Delilah situation. Text messages about how to spin her absence to make her look bad. A detailed timeline of when to release promotional materials to maximise donations. Jesus, Griffin, they really hate me. It's not hate, it's jealousy and greed. One email made me stop cold. It was from Mom to Sydney, dated 3 weeks ago. "The beauty of this plan is that even if Delilah finds out, she can't do anything without looking petty. Who's going to side with the rich sister trying to shut down a children's charity? We'll be the victims, and she'll be the villain. Either way, we win." "They planned for me to find out," I said. "Yeah, they want you to look like the bad guy for opposing a charity. It's actually brilliant in a completely psychotic way." I pulled out my phone and called my best friend Angela. She answered immediately. "Delilah, I was just about to call you. I saw the gala announcement. Why didn't you tell me you were organising a charity event?" "Angela, I need you to meet me. Now. Bring your lawyer brain." "What's wrong?" "Everything. Can you meet me at Riverside Park in 20 minutes? "On my way." I hung up and turned back to Griffin. "How much money have they collected so far?" "According to the bank statements, about $78,000. $78,000. And climbing. The social media campaign is working. People are sharing it everywhere, talking about how proud they are of you for finally giving back." "Finally giving back? I've donated more to charity in the past 5 years than most people make in a decade." "Yeah, but you do it quietly. Mum and Sydney are making sure everyone knows about this one." Angela arrived jogging, still in her workout clothes. "Okay, what's the emergency?" I handed her the envelope. She speed-read through everything, her expression growing darker with each page. Holy shit, Delilah. This is federal fraud. Wire fraud, mail fraud, identity theft. They're looking at serious prison time. Good. Good? These are your mother and sister. These are criminals who happen to share my DNA. Griffin shifted uncomfortably. Look, I know they messed up, but maybe we can handle this quietly. Make them return the money, cancel the event. No. My voice was sharper than I intended. They've spent months planning this. They've been telling everyone I'm too selfish to participate in my own charity event. They're using my reputation to fund their European vacation while painting me as a villain. Angela was still reading. There's more here. Look at this email thread about your cousin's wedding last year. I read over her shoulder. Mom and Sydney discussing how to make sure I looked bad at the wedding reception. They'd arranged for the DJ to announce that I'd generously donated to the couple's honeymoon fund. Except I hadn't. They'd made the donation themselves, using money I'd given Mum for her property taxes, then made sure everyone knew about my gift, so I couldn't contradict them without looking petty. They've been manipulating situations to make me look bad for years, I said. Or to make themselves look good using your money, Angela added. This is a pattern of behaviour. Griffin stood up. So, what are you going to do? I looked at both of them. I'm going to that gala. Delilah? I'm going to that gala, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly who the real villain is. Angela grinned. Now you're talking. What do you need from me? Legal advice, evidence collection, and help planning the most spectacular public humiliation in charity gala history. Griffin shook his head. This is going to destroy the family. Griffin, they destroyed the family when they decided to commit fraud using my name. I'm just making sure there are consequences. My phone buzzed with a text from Sydney. Hope you're not planning to cause drama at the gala. Would hate for you to embarrass yourself in front of all those important people. I showed the text to Angela and Griffin. She has no idea what's coming, Angela said. No, I replied. She really doesn't. Angela and I spent the next morning in her law office, mapping out our strategy. She'd already contacted a private investigator named Darius, who specialised in financial crimes. He'll have everything we need by tomorrow, Angela said, hanging up the phone. Bank records, email trails, the works. But Delilah, we need to talk about the nuclear option. Which is? Going to the police now. We have enough evidence to shut this down before the gala even happens. No, I want them to have their moment on stage first. Why? Because I want everyone who donated money thinking I was too selfish to show up to see exactly who the real selfish people are. My phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognise. Hello? Ms. Hopkins? This is Jamie from Children's Hospital downtown. I understand you're organising a fundraiser for us. I nearly dropped the phone. I'm sorry, what? The Children's Hope Foundation Gala. We received a call yesterday from someone claiming to represent you, asking about sending us promotional materials to display at the event. Jamie, I need to meet with you immediately. There's been a serious misunderstanding. An hour later, I was sitting across from Jamie in his office at the actual children's hospital. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 40s, with tired eyes that suggested he'd seen too much suffering. So, let me get this straight, he said after I'd explained everything. Your family is raising money in your name, claiming it's for our hospital, but we're not actually receiving any of it? That's correct, and they're planning to take a European vacation with the proceeds. Jamie's face went through several emotions: confusion, anger, disgust. Do you know how many families I see every day who can't afford their children's medical bills? How many kids we have to turn away because we don't have funding for their treatments? I know. That's why I want to make this right. What do you need from me? I want you to come to the gala. I'm going to expose them publicly. And then I want to make a real donation to your hospital. A big one. Jamie leaned back in his chair. How big? Whatever they've raised, I'll match it. Plus another $50,000. You're talking about over $150,000. I'm talking about making sure some good comes out of this mess. Jamie extended his hand. Count me in. I left the hospital and drove straight to the gala venue. The Riverside Ballroom was buzzing with activity, florists arranging centerpieces, caterers setting up tables, a DJ testing sound equipment. I found the event coordinator, a harried-looking woman with a clipboard. Excuse me, I'd like to purchase a table for tonight's event. I'm sorry, we're completely sold out. This is one of our most successful charity events ever. I'm willing to pay double. She looked at me more carefully. Let me see what I can do. 20 minutes and $2,000 later, I had a table for 8 right in front of the stage. I gave her a fake name and paid in cash. Will you be needing the vegetarian option? She asked. Actually, I'll be bringing my own guests. Is it possible to get a list of tonight's speakers? She handed me a program. Mom and Sydney were both scheduled to speak, along with someone called Patricia Williams, Foundation board member, Mom's neighbour, who was apparently in on the scam. My phone buzzed with a call from Darius. I've got everything you need, he said without preamble. Your family's been busy. This isn't their first rodeo. What do you mean? I found records of 3 other small-scale fundraisers over the past 2 years. Church bake sales, school fundraisers, community events, always with your mother or sister as the organiser, always with money going missing. How much money? About 15,000 total. Small enough to fly under the radar, but it establishes a pattern. Can you prove it? I've got bank records, receipts, witness statements. Your mother's been practicing for this big score. I met Angela for lunch at a restaurant across from the venue. She was practically vibrating with excitement. Darius sent over his preliminary report, she said, sliding a folder across the table. This is better than we hoped. We're not just talking about one fraudulent event. We're talking about a criminal enterprise. What's the legal exposure? Federal charges, wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy, tax evasion. They could be looking at 10 to 20 years. Good. Delilah, are you sure about this? Once we pull this trigger tonight, there's no going back. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. My phone buzzed with a text from Griffin. Mom's been calling everyone, telling them you're trying to sabotage the charity out of jealousy. Natalie is spreading it around that you're having a breakdown. I showed the text to Angela. They're still trying to control the narrative, she said. Not for much longer. Another text came in, this one from Sydney. Heard you bought a table for tonight. Glad you finally decided to support a good cause. Try not to make a scene. I typed back. Wouldn't dream of it, Angela grinned. You're enjoying this? I'm about to enjoy it a lot more. Griffin showed up at my apartment that evening, looking like he'd been hit by a truck. Please don't do this, he said before I could even let him in. Hello to you too, Griffin. I'm serious, Delilah. Mom's been crying all day. She knows something's wrong. She should be crying. She's about to be arrested. Griffin pushed past me into the living room. Look, I know they screwed up, but they're still our family. Our family. When was the last time they treated me like family? That's not the point. That's exactly the point. They've spent years making me the villain, and now they're committing crimes using my name. Where's the family loyalty in that? Griffin slumped onto my couch. Sydney called me an hour ago. She's panicking. She thinks you're going to cause a scene tonight. I am going to cause a scene tonight. She said if you try to embarrass them, she'll tell everyone about your breakdown after Dad died. I froze. My what? The therapy, the medication, the time you took off work. She said she'll make it sound like you're having another episode. I went to grief counselling for 3 months after Dad's funeral. That's not a breakdown. I know that, but Sydney's good at spinning stories. My phone rang. Angela. Are you ready for tonight? She asked. Just more than ready. Griffin's here trying to talk me out of it. Put me on speaker. I hit the speaker button. Go ahead. Griffin, this is Angela. I need you to understand something. What your mother and sister are doing isn't just morally wrong. It's felony fraud. If Delilah doesn't stop this tonight, the FBI will stop it next week. Which scenario do you think ends better for your family? Griffin was quiet for a long moment. The FBI? Wire fraud across state lines is a federal crime. I've already prepared the paperwork. If tonight doesn't go according to plan, I'm filing charges first thing Monday morning. Jesus! Your sister and mother have stolen nearly $80,000 from people who thought they were helping sick children. They've forged tax documents. They've committed identity theft. This isn't family drama, Griffin. This is serious criminal activity. Griffin looked at me. Is there any way to handle this quietly? They had 8 months to handle this quietly, I said. They chose to make it public. They chose to drag my name through the mud. They chose to steal from good people. Now they get to face the consequences publicly. My phone buzzed with another call. Mum. Don't answer it, Griffin said. I answered anyway and put it on speaker. Delilah, sweetheart, I heard you're planning to attend tonight. I'm so glad you've decided to support the cause. Which cause is that, Mum? The children, of course. You know how much this means to me. What means so much to you? Helping children or taking a vacation to Italy? Silence. Then, I don't know what you're talking about. The hotel reservations, Mum. The first-class flights. The 5-star restaurants. All booked with charity money. Delilah, you're being paranoid. I have the receipts. Literally. Griffin found them on Sydney's laptop. More silence. Then, Mum's voice, colder now. Griffin, what have you done? What I should have done months ago, Griffin said. I should have stopped you. You ungrateful little... No, Mum. Ungrateful is stealing from people who want to help sick kids. Ungrateful is using your daughter's reputation to fund your vacation. Ungrateful is spending years making Delilah feel like an outsider in her own family while taking her money. Griffin, I'm done, Mum. I'm done pretending this is normal family dysfunction. I'm done watching you and Sydney destroy Delilah because you're jealous of her success. The line went dead. Griffin looked at me with tears in his eyes. I should have said that years ago. Why didn't you? Because I wanted to keep the peace. Because I thought family was more important than being right. Because I was a coward. Angela's voice came through the phone speaker. Griffin, are you going to be okay with what happens tonight? Yeah, I think I am. They made their choice. Now they have to live with it. My phone buzzed with a text from Sydney. Whatever you're planning, remember that everyone will be watching. Are you really going to humiliate your own family in front of the whole city? I showed the text to Griffin. She still thinks she can guilt you into backing down, he said. She's about to learn otherwise. Another text from Sydney. Mum's having chest pains. If something happens to her tonight, it's on you. Griffin read it and shook his head. She's not having chest pains. That's her go-to manipulation tactic. She did the same thing when I told her I was moving out. I know. Are you really going through with this? Griffin, they've been planning this for 8 months. They've stolen $80,000. They've spent years making me the family scapegoat while taking my money. Tonight, that ends. What do you need me to do? Just be there. And when the time comes, tell the truth. Griffin nodded. I can do that. Good. Because in 3 hours, this family is going to learn what consequences look like. The Riverside Ballroom was packed. I counted at least 300 people, all dressed in their finest, all believing they were supporting a worthy cause. Angela, Jamie, and I sat at our front row table, watching the crowd mingle during cocktail hour. "There's your aunt," Angela whispered, nodding toward the bar. Aunt Natalie was holding court with a group of women, gesturing dramatically with her wine glass. I caught fragments of her conversation. Always been jealous of Sydney's charm, too proud to admit she needs family, heard she's been having problems at work. "She's really going all out tonight," Jamie observed. "She always does. Natalie lives for family drama." Connor appeared at our table looking confused. "Delilah, I didn't expect to see you here. I thought you were too busy to attend your own event." "That's what everyone thinks," I said. Interesting how that story got started, isn't it? Before Connor could respond, the lights dimmed and Mum took the stage. She looked radiant in a navy dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, paid for, no doubt, with charity money. "Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Children's Hope Foundation Gala." Applause filled the room. I watched faces in the crowd, genuine smiles, people truly believing they were part of something good. I want to start by thanking all of you for your generous donations. Together, we've raised over $85,000 for children in need. More applause. Someone at a nearby table whispered, "Where's Delilah? Isn't this her event?" Mum continued, her voice taking on a practiced tone of disappointment. "As many of you know, my daughter Delilah was supposed to be our keynote speaker tonight. Unfortunately, she's been too busy with her career to participate in the planning process." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I saw people glancing around, looking for me. "But that's okay," Mum said, her voice brightening. "Sydney and I believe that helping children is more important than personal recognition. We're just grateful that Delilah allowed us to use her name to bring attention to this worthy cause." Allowed us, as if I'd given permission. Sydney joined Mum on stage, looking stunning in a red dress. She took the microphone with practiced ease. "Thank you, Mum. You know, when we first approached Delilah about this charity, she said she was too busy to be involved. But we knew that deep down, she cared about helping children, even if she couldn't make time to show it." The crowd was eating it up. Sympathetic nods, understanding smiles. They were painting me as the successful but cold sister who couldn't be bothered with charity work. "So we decided to honour her anyway," Sydney continued, "to show that family means supporting each other, even when that support isn't returned." Angela leaned over. "They're really going for it." "Just wait." Sydney's voice grew more emotional. "It hasn't been easy organising this event without Delilah's help. There were times when we wondered if we should cancel, if it was worth doing without her participation." A woman at the table next to us whispered, "How sad. Her own sister organising a charity in her name, and she can't even show up." "But then we remembered the children," Sydney said, her voice breaking slightly. "The children who need our help. And we realised that sometimes you have to do the right thing, even when it's hard, even when you're doing it alone." The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. So tonight, we're not just raising money for children. We're showing that love and compassion matter more than personal success. We're proving that family means never giving up on each other, even when... Sydney stopped mid-sentence. She'd spotted me. Our eyes met across the room. I raised my wine glass in a small salute. Sydney's face went white. She fumbled with the microphone, her composure cracking. "Even when..." She tried to continue, but her voice trailed off. Mom followed Sydney's gaze and saw me too. The colour drained from her face. "Is everything all right?" someone called from the audience. Sydney recovered quickly, forcing a smile. "Yes, sorry, I thought I saw someone I knew." But the damage was done. The spell was broken. People were turning to look where Sydney had been staring, trying to figure out what had rattled her. "Anyway," Sydney said, her voice shaky now, "let's enjoy dinner, and then we'll have more speakers after the main course." The lights came back up and servers began bringing out the first course. But the energy in the room had shifted. People were whispering, pointing, trying to figure out what had happened on stage. Aunt Natalie appeared at our table like a heat-seeking missile. "Delilah, what are you doing here?" "Supporting charity, Natalie. Isn't that what tonight is about? You know what I mean. After everything your mother and sister have done to make this event happen without you." "Without me?" I stood up, my voice carrying to nearby tables. "Natalie, this entire event is supposedly in my name. How exactly is it happening without me?" Natalie's mouth opened and closed like a fish. People at surrounding tables had stopped eating to listen. Well, you know what I mean." "No, I don't. Please explain how a charity gala using my name and photo is happening without me." Natalie looked around desperately, realizing she'd walked into a trap. "I need to... Excuse me." She hurried away, but the damage was done. The whispers were getting louder. Jamie leaned over. "They know something's wrong." "Good. Let them wonder." My phone buzzed with a text from Sydney. "Get out, now, before you embarrass yourself." I typed back. The embarrassment hasn't even started yet. Dinner dragged on with painful tension. Sydney kept glancing at my table, her smile growing more forced with each course. Mum had disappeared entirely, probably hiding in the bathroom or making frantic phone calls. Finally, the servers cleared the dessert plates, and Sydney returned to the stage. She'd reapplied her makeup, but I could see the stress in her posture. "Thank you all for that wonderful meal," she began, her voice steadier now. "Before we conclude tonight's event, I want to share a few words about family, sacrifice, and what it means to give back." She launched into a prepared speech about growing up with a sister who was always focused on success and how that had taught her the importance of compassion. The crowd was listening politely, but the energy from earlier was gone. "Some people measure success by their bank account," Sydney continued, looking directly at me. "But real success is measured by how much you give back, how much you care about others, how willing you are to sacrifice for those in need." The implication was clear. I was the selfish sister with the big bank account. She was the caring one making sacrifices. So tonight, as we conclude this beautiful evening, I want to thank everyone who contributed to this cause. Your generosity will make a real difference in children's lives. She paused for applause, then continued. "And I want to thank my sister, Delilah, who, even though she couldn't be with us tonight..." I stood up. The room went silent. 300 people turned to stare at me. "Actually, Sydney, I am here." Sydney's face went through several emotions. Shock, fear, anger. "Delilah, we didn't know you were coming." "Clearly." I walked toward the stage, my heels clicking on the marble floor. The silence was deafening. "May I?" I gestured to the microphone. Sydney looked like a deer in headlights. She couldn't refuse without looking terrible, but she clearly didn't want to hand over control. "Of course," she said finally, stepping aside. I took the microphone and looked out at the crowd. Familiar faces stared back at me. Colleagues, neighbours, family friends. People who had donated money thinking I was too selfish to show up to my own charity event. "Good evening, everyone. I'm Delilah, and I want to thank you all for coming to support what you believe is a worthy cause." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Something in my tone suggested this wasn't going to be a typical thank you speech. I have to admit, I was surprised to learn about this event. You see, nobody told me about it. The murmurs grew louder. In fact, I found out about this charity gala the same way many of you did, through social media. Imagine my surprise when I saw my own photo advertising an event I'd never heard of, for a charity I'd never worked with. Sydney tried to step forward, but I held up a hand. Now, I know what you're thinking. Family miscommunication happens. Maybe there was a misunderstanding about my involvement. I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots I'd prepared. But then I started digging, and I discovered something interesting about the Children's Hope Foundation. The room was dead silent now. It doesn't exist. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. The address listed on your donation receipts? It's a P.O. box, the board of directors. 3 people, including my mother and sister. The bank account where your donations went. It's a personal account under my mother's name. People were pulling out their phones, frantically checking the charity's website. But here's the really interesting part, I continued. I found the receipts for the European vacation that was booked with your donation money. First-class flights to Italy, 5-star hotels in Rome and Paris, Michelin-starred restaurants, all paid for with the money you donated to help sick children. The crowd erupted. Angry voices, shocked exclamations, people demanding answers. Sydney grabbed the microphone. That's not true. Delilah is lying because she's jealous. I have the receipts, Sydney. I have the bank statements. I have the email chains where you and Mum planned this fraud for 8 months. Mum finally appeared, rushing toward the stage. Delilah, stop this, right now. Stop what, Mum? Stop telling the truth? I turned back to the crowd. But I don't want anyone to think this evening was a complete waste. Jamie, would you please join me on stage? Jamie stood up from our table and walked to the stage. The crowd watched in confusion. Everyone, I'd like you to meet Jamie. He's the director of the actual children's hospital downtown, the one that never heard of the Children's Hope Foundation, the one that never received a penny of your donations. Jamie took the microphone. Thank you, Delilah. I want everyone here to know that while your donations tonight were misdirected, they weren't wasted. Delilah has just written a check to our hospital for the full amount that was raised tonight, plus an additional $50,000. The crowd was stunned into silence. Furthermore, I said, taking the microphone back, I've contacted the FBI. Wire fraud is a federal crime, and my mother and sister will be facing charges. Mom lunged for the microphone, but security was already moving toward the stage. You vindictive little bitch, she screamed. You've destroyed your own family. No, Mom, you destroyed this family when you decided to commit fraud using my name. The police arrived as if on cue. Angela had timed it perfectly. As they led Mom and Sydney away in handcuffs, Sydney turned back to me. This isn't over, Delilah. Everyone will know what you really are. They already do, Sydney. They already do. The media circus started before I even left the ballroom. News crews had somehow gotten wind of the story, and reporters were shoving microphones in my face as I walked to my car. Ms. Hopkins, how does it feel to have your own family arrested? Are you concerned about the impact on your business reputation? Will you be pressing additional charges? I kept walking, saying nothing. Angela had coached me well. Let the evidence speak for itself. My phone started ringing before I reached my car. Connor was the first call. Delilah, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. We all believed their story about you being too busy to care. It's not your fault, Connor. They were very convincing. Is there anything I can do? Any way to help? Just remember this the next time someone tries to tell you who I am, instead of letting me show you. The calls kept coming. Colleagues, acquaintances, even people I barely knew, all apologising for believing the narrative Mum and Sydney had crafted. It should have felt like vindication, but mostly it just felt exhausting. Griffin called around midnight. Are you okay? I'm fine. Are you? I don't know. I keep thinking about Mum's face when they put the handcuffs on her. Griffin, I know she deserved it. I know they both did. But she's still our mother. She stopped being our mother when she decided to destroy my reputation for vacation money. Griffin was quiet for a long moment. The whole family's calling me. Aunt Natalie, Cousin Mark, everyone. They want to know if I'm going to support Mom and Sydney. What are you telling them? The truth. That they committed crimes and got caught. That you tried to handle it quietly and they forced your hand. How's that going over? About as well as you'd expect. Natalie called me a traitor. Mark said I was choosing money over family. I'm sorry you're dealing with that. Don't be. I should have stood up to them years ago. The next morning, my doorbell rang at 7 a.m. I opened it to find a reporter with a camera crew. Ms. Hopkins, Channel 7 News, can you comment on the allegations that you orchestrated this entire situation to make your family look bad? I closed the door without a word, but I could see where this was going. Mum and Sydney weren't going down without a fight. Angela called an hour later. Have you seen the news? I'm avoiding it. Don't. You need to see what they're saying. I turned on the TV. There was Sydney being interviewed from jail, tears streaming down her face. My sister has always been jealous of the relationship I have with our mother, she was saying. She's wealthy and successful, but she's never been able to buy our love. This is her way of getting revenge for years of feeling left out. The reporter leaned in sympathetically. So, you're saying she set you up? She knew we were planning this charity event. She could have stopped it at any time. Instead, she let us go through with it so she could humiliate us publicly. I turned off the TV and called Angela. They're trying to flip the narrative, she said, making you the villain again. Will it work? Not with the evidence we have? Bank records don't lie, Delilah. Neither do email chains planning fraud. The trial moved quickly. Federal prosecutors don't mess around with wire fraud cases, especially ones with this much evidence. Mum and Sydney both pled guilty in exchange for reduced sentences. 3 years for Mum, 2 for Sydney. The day of sentencing, I sat in the courtroom gallery. Mum turned to look at me as they led her away. I hope you're happy, she mouthed. I wasn't happy, but I wasn't sorry either. Jamie called me that afternoon. The hospital board met this morning. We'd like to offer you a position on our board of directors. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not sure I'm the right fit. Because of what happened with your family? Because of what I did to my family. Delilah, you exposed criminals who were stealing from sick children. That's exactly the kind of integrity we need on our board. I thought about it for a moment. Can I have some time to consider? Of course. That evening, I found an envelope slipped under my apartment door. No return address, but I recognized Sydney's handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper. You got what you wanted. Mom and I are in prison, the family is destroyed, and everyone thinks you're a hero. But we both know the truth. You could have stopped this quietly, but you chose to humiliate us instead. You chose revenge over family. I hope it was worth it. S. I read the letter twice, then walked to my fireplace and dropped it into the flames. My phone buzzed with a text from Griffin. Dinner? So tomorrow? I'm cooking. I typed back, Oh, I'll bring wine. As I watched Sydney's letter burn, I realised something. She was right about one thing. I had chosen revenge over family, but they had chosen fraud over family first. And sometimes, when people show you who they really are, the only choice left is consequences. The flames consumed the last of the letter, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace.